You are watching the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, your escape to reality.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Friday stream.
It's Friday!
Yay, what's up, Friday. Everyone?
This actually it's a day off for most of us, right? Because of the July 4th is on a Saturday, so this is the official holiday. And in the Northeast, it's raining.
Thunderstorming.
Yeah. I did grocery shopping before the stream, and it took me a few seconds to get to my car, and I was soaked. It was like right in the middle of the worst downpour you could imagine.
That's the worst.
So Kara may or may not be joining us tonight. She's somewhere.
She's in parts unknown.
Yeah.
No, she said she's visiting her friend, and the internet connection is horrible, and it would be better if she wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Whatever.
Try to muscle through with a terrible connection.
I didn't know she had friends. That's awesome.
I didn't know there was a weak internet connection still out there.
Can we state the obvious, Steve?
Well, the obvious what?
Bob's ghost background is one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That is so awesome, Bob. What is this?
These are digital animations I've been getting into for the past bunch of years, as you know, Jay.
This is like a little view into Bob's head, what goes on a little bit.
Atmos Effects, atmosfx.com. They've got animations like this. They've got tons for Halloween, as you might imagine, but they've got them for Thanksgiving and Christmas, lots for Christmas.
July 4th. Coming in old.
Christmas coming in old. So I'll be playing some tomorrow for Halloween. I mean, for my birthday, 4th of July.
Like, what do you just show? Explosions and stuff?
Yeah, just like fire. They got fireworks coming off and happy birthday and silly stuff like that. But
Bob, is this the thing that you use? Like, can you project like a face onto a bust with that as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I tried to get this to work when I was doing. Remember when I was doing my pumpkins a few last month? They have just the jack-o'-lantern faces. So I set up 3 real pumpkins, and then it projects a face, and they move, they emote, they talk. I'll probably end up doing that at some point on the desk.
You did that one year, Bob, with you had a witch projected onto, just like a sheet over like something.
Yep, I've got a special scrim that I could project onto. I can also have
that was pretty
inflatable.
Effective.
Yeah, very.
You
effective.
had it at the end of like a dark stairwell.
Yes. Yeah, but that one I think, Steve, you saw was actually an inflatable body form that you drape with the special material, and then you project onto that, so it looks like a discrete person standing there. Mm-hmm. That's very effective.
Gives it that nice depth. Yeah.
Remember how impressed we were by that when we went through the haunted house for the first time at Disney?
Oh yeah.
It's still impressive. It's still incredibly.
But it's all this shit. It's the stuff that we're doing at home now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Bob, what
every
happened
day.
to your alien monster figures that you had? Remember, you had the
Alien.
Yeah, you had some.
The thing.
The thing. I'm sorry, the thing. You had those high quality figures there. Didn't you have a thing one? I remember you showing.
Yeah, I got Jay. They're 5 feet away from me, dude.
Yeah, thing
They're
one,
right over there.
Okay, well they didn't make the cut, huh?
They're on the they're on the list. They're on the list.
Bob's being careful because he doesn't want to like put it all out at once.
That would actually cause a gravitational anomaly and create a black hole because it's just way too much to put into one tiny place.
All right, Steve, what's up? What's the latest with COVID?
It's still happening.
Oh my God, we all have total COVID burnout. It's like, yeah, it's still happening. We're all sick. Yeah,
well,
so
it's not going away.
The U.S. is in the middle of a little bit of a resurgence. It's really just like the second hump of the first wave. We kind of flattened the first wave a little bit. Now it's spiking back up. All in states that opened up too early, in states that aren't doing like lockdown, or as they're opening up, they're not really requiring masks, or they're just being loose with it. So people are, losing steam too quickly in this pandemic, and we're paying the price. The U.S. is bad. Like we're failing. We are failing to manage this pandemic.
Completely.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely. It's as if we're doing nothing. It's the way I look at it. Did you guys notice that the president, the vice president, and some high-ranking Republican senators all came out publicly saying wear a mask?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I found to be very, first off, you're 4 months too late.
Yeah.
Assholes. But on top of that, all in the same day. All within the same couple of days, they do this.
It was clearly a decision to do that.
Yep.
Gee, politicians coordinating something? That never happens.
I'm not bitter at all, Evan. I'm not angry. That we have an anti-science government.
Par for the course,
God.
right?
So
terrible.
Yeah. Well, my other thing I wanted to talk about was, Steve, did you finally read anything about the Chinese vaccine? I'm trying to find information on it, and I'm finding boilerplate stuff.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find any like primary sources. It's all just, again, like the secondary journalistic stuff, which is very superficial. So if I could find something, maybe we'll talk about it on the show next week.
Well, my big question is, let's say this is something that as we get the information, we could do a deep dive on it. But let's say they develop one because they've been working on it longer, and they get a viable candidate 6 months ahead of time. Are they going to share it with the rest of the world?
Of course.
You hope so. I don't know.
Sure. I think so. And also the order, I think. Who would they share it with first? And would they prioritize their country first, which I think a lot of countries would just normally do. But I think the first country that has a viable vaccine, I think that's going to be like, the first country to land on the moon almost. Not only would they make a lot of money selling it to the world, but that's really a badge that country can wear.
If the vaccine is effective or significantly effective.
Yeah, but if it's a worst case scenario where they basically infect millions of people with a worse version of COVID-19, then they will go down in history as like. Well,
I don't think they're going to use a live virus vaccine. It'll probably be inactivated.
Well, true, but you keep hearing over and over, though, at least earlier in the pandemic, that we've got to be very careful with the vaccine. We got to do months and months of testing on people because that's the bottleneck. Because if you screw this up, you could end up making a lot of people even sicker than they ever would have been. That's not a viable possibility in this scenario.
No.
What's a worst case scenario with a bad vaccine?
It doesn't work.
Yeah,
that's going to be the worst case scenario.
Yeah, it's not going to do anything horrible.
Just the basic vaccine technology is so established. It's going to be hard to make a vaccine, unless it's a live virus vaccine, which it's not. I would be very surprised if that were the case, because with a live virus, they attenuate it. They breed it in such a way that it gets weakened, and then it's enough to produce a immune response, but not enough to cause an infection.
But if it's not weakened enough.
Yeah, but what happens is you get back mutations, at random.
So you got like an arm growing out of your back, or how does that work?
No, in other words, whatever changes were made to make the virus weaker are undone by new mutations, and then the virus becomes virulent again and then causes disease. So, and that'll happen 1 in a million or whatever, depending on the virus. But if you have a killed virus, an inactivated virus, we're just using like the protein code or whatever.
That can't happen.
It can't happen. And the worst case scenario, unless they do something novel with it, but if they're just using standard, vaccine technology, it's there's pretty low risk of something new bad happening from it.
I guess my question is, since speed here is the name of the game, what are we sacrificing in that race to get to the vaccine as fast as possible?
Yeah, I think the probability that it will be effective, right? That's it. If you go too fast and skip over too many steps clinically,
right?
Like you normally would like to see, does it make antibodies? What kind of antibodies does it produce? How effective are those antibodies? How long do they last? And then
in a non-crisis situation, that plays out over the course of
years,
right? Several years.
Yeah, years. And then you have to test it in people. Do a clinical trial. Just most of that, a lot of that is bureaucratic. It takes time to design the trial, roll it out, whatever. Yeah. So if they squeeze all the bureaucratic time out of the process, yes, that can condense it down significantly. Good but point. They're also going to be accelerating the timeline for like the clinical trial itself. Like, do you follow people for 3 months, or do you follow them for 6 months, or 9 months or a year? How long do you follow them to see if they're maintaining their antibody titers and to see if they're still resistant? Do you, then sometimes they have to test people with boosters to see if that gives an increased response, or whatever. And the big thing is, does it work? Like, there have been, we've reported even on multiple trials with like HIV vaccines or whatever, and they're like, oh, there's 30% effective or 40% effective. So if that's the case, are we going to roll out billions of doses of a vaccine that's 30% effective? Is that going to have enough of a protective effect that it's going to be worth it, or it'll just create a false sense of security? Or,
right. That's what I'm...
I read today, because I'm always trolling science news, that there's a new variant of COVID-19 out that's kind of dominating. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about that? You worried about it?
No, I mean, new strains are going to crop up. Sometimes they're not as bad. The new strains are not as bad as the first one. But they're tracking that very closely. So far, most of the strains that they've identified haven't really been any different in terms of their virulence, but it's bound to happen eventually.
Yeah. Well, we're all still here, trudging along.
So there does appear to be a spike from Memorial Day. We are seeing a Memorial Day bump, but but studies so far have not seen a bump from the Black Lives Matter protests. So that hasn't appeared to produce a bump in locations where those demonstrations have occurred.
Yeah, and that
probably because it's outside.
It's outside, and you're moving.
And the average age of the participant, or that doesn't matter?
Maybe, I don't know, possibly.
I mean, they might be carrying, but just not symptomatic, right?
But we'll see. Then we have to wait 2 weeks to see if Trump rally produces a bump.
Right. Yeah. There's going to be all these kinds of tests throughout the summer, tons of them.
Yeah.
And no one will ever admit to any of this because there's zero respect. I shouldn't say zero, but there's a lot of people not respecting the experts. Who was this senator? What is this? Which one of them said, we shouldn't be trusting the experts?
Yeah. That was, is that Rand Paul?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
What did he exactly say? I'm trying to remember the way that he worded it. Like,
essentially, like, experts don't necessarily have the best answers.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
So the first thing I thought of when I read that was, all right, so you're saying that the experts are not the people to listen to. So then whoever we should listen to, aren't they the experts? Like, it's the term that we use for the people who have the most information and the most ability to lead us and guide us. And
it's like almost by definition. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say the experts don't have the information, like he's not even communicating well. Like, and then who is it? The follow up to that, the obvious piece of information that's missing is who should we be listening
Well,
to?
the implication is the politicians, should be making decisions. If they do,
Holy shit! Really? That
Yeah.
we're going to listen to politicians now? Give me a break. If we learned anything in the past 3 years, is whatever. You know what I'm going to say? It's like, yeah, don't go to politicians for facts. Let's leave it at that. All right, let's change the subject because I'm having a meltdown over here. We haven't even started.
Don't
16
get me
minutes into
started.
this, and I'm like about to explode. I would like to tell all of you guys that if we weren't doing these live streams, I would barely be Evan. First, I'd never see you.
Yeah, this is how we see each other now.
That's
this
right.
Is it. This is it.
Yep. I see Steve when he comes down into the studio to say hi to me and Evan every Thursday, but it's like there's no interaction. Ian. Steve sees me and Ian down there for 5 seconds. He's like, all right, he taps out. But I do see Bob. I see Bob more than anybody. Bob and I are kind of in our extended pool. He's in our
and Bob's home with mom, so you're
and there's
kind of makes sense.
And there's a pool here.
Oh, there is that. Yeah,
it's a big draw.
Yeah, right. Well,
tomorrow.
I know.
What projects is everybody working on?
Oh God.
For me, it's just a race to the end of tax season, July 15th. By the way,
Yep.
folks, if you haven't filed, you have until July 15th to file and pay, and also get your first and second quarter estimates
15.
for 2018. July 15th is the due date.
12 days.
Yep, 12 days. So I'm in hell, but I'm not missing this. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even close to being done with the Stonewall. Reality kicks in, and I did get to spend a lot of good time on it, but now it's kind of all evaporated. Partly because of Nexus, I think.
Yeah.
But I had excuse me, I had a guy come over today. My wife wanted to get a price on what it's going to cost to get the floors, the hardwood floors in our house, like redone. Oh my God.
Oh, wow, redone.
This is worse than moving. You have to move everything out of your house.
Yeah.
Then you have to leave. You can't come to your house for like 5 days, 6 days.
We did it 8-9 years ago. Yeah, they moved everything into like the other room that didn't have hardwood floors.
Yeah.
And then we were in a hotel for 3 days or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a deal breaker for me. We can't handle that.
Remember, I had to sneak into my studio to record the show.
Yeah. I remember that.
You had to tiptoe in. Ooh.
Yeah.
Breaking
Steve, how was my sound on the show this morning?
I haven't heard it yet.
Wait. Oh, it's only Friday.
It's only Friday. Yeah. I know it feels like Saturday.
What do you, Steve? Now you have no projects you're doing because you're
back to work full time.
I'm back to work full time. Doing some work for Nexus, where I'm writing my part of the game show, etc. I've just been doing, it's summertime, so I'm doing yard work. So like today, tending the garden, whacking back nature, which is always trying to encroach upon my yard. And then over the summer, I'm stocking up firewood for the winter. So I cut some trees.
Don't even talk to me about winter. Oh my God, I don't even want to think about that right now. I know, the summer just started. Let's please.
Kind of.
Keep it positive.
Yeah.
I did some weeding.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Can you see before?
Yeah.
After.
I don't see.
Oh wow. I see a big difference.
Oh wow, Bob. Yeah. Okay. Now I see it.
Oh.
Whoa.
All right. That was safe. That was safe.
Wow. Good one.
Oh boy.
And careers get ruined,
Yes.
You got to be careful.
Swiping the wrong way.
Yeah.
I've done something.
Where's my?
Somebody ever give you their phone to show you something, and then you instinctively just start swiping, and you're like, "Whoa, I don't want to see that."
Not really, but
no,
that happened to me. Bob, a few people noticed that my name is on a tombstone behind you.
Yes.
Oh no.
I made this.
What year?
So I made this when I did the haunted corn maze in 2005. I had this made, and I had one with my name. So there was Jay, died October 31st, October 31st, 2005. My mom was very upset about having her son on a tombstone. So I backdated the date. So it was in the past a little bit.
Yeah.
So that made her feel better. For mine, I had just Bob, and then I had Putrefy in Peace, kind of like that. And so I would remember, Jay, do you remember I put my tombstone as the first one in the cemetery? So when the people were coming through the corn maze, and I set up a camera, when I was watching in November, the video, people would come in and they go, Bob, every time, because they were reading my tombstones. Like, holy crap. It's kind of hilarious.
Excuse me.
Those corn maze days were amazing, man. We used to, Bob had a professional haunt, and he would would be a month and a half of building to build the corn, and then the corn is growing in, and then, oh God, the 2 weeks of Halloween were the best.
Remember one year,
crazy work.
My younger daughter is into, Halloween and all the stuff that Bob is into. So we did her birthday party in the haunted corn maze, right? It was like a select group of friends that we took through the corn maze as part of the birthdays. They loved it. That was like one of the best birthdays.
I remember that, Steve. I remember they came to the pirate area, right? And that was our biggest, best pirate area ever. I was dressed up as my skeleton pirate. It's one of my best costumes, second best costume now. And I remember speaking in my gravelly pirate voice. Man, that hurt for like a day afterwards, but it was worth it. It's worth it.
Do it again in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Bob told me, and it's like, anybody that works in a haunted house or haunted corn maze, it's painful for a lot of reasons, but there are moments of ecstasy when if you really scare somebody, it could be really pleasing. And I remember Bob was like taking his mask off, and he's walking, and he's like, oh my God, I just made a 15-year-old girl scream. I loved it. He was like, remember you were like super psyched about like, scaring the hell out of like some teenage group. It was awesome.
Yeah. When somebody actually verbally confirms that they peed in their pants, that was the high water mark. So to speak. That was the best. We would have a list. We'd like, confirmed pants pissing. And one weekend we had 15. It was a beautiful thing. My favorite, Jay, I told you this story. This kid comes to the haunt. He must have been 15, dressed as Superman, standing in line and waiting in line, totally, going forward for like 40 minutes. And he hears the screams in the corn maze, and people are screaming. And he walks up, he goes to the door, and he's like, no. And he walks away and walks out. Done. He paid $20. He's just left. Like, I'm not going in there. And that was it.
Now, if everybody was that way, all you would need is the front door and then
a noise machine.
And noise machine. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We would walk it at night, and we would find like cell phones. We would find flip flops. We'd find money. There'd be like a few singles here, $5 bill, and we'd pick it up and split it amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
It was fun.
So I have good news, everybody.
Good news, everyone.
Couple of things. First, we're doing the quiz tonight. Frank and his team have updated the software, and Ian will go into all the details. But we did, that there is a delay, right? So depending on where you're watching this stream, inherently streams have a delay: 1 second, 2 seconds, 15 seconds. This depends on where you're watching the stream. So what Frank figured out was that he could make it so people are synced with when they're hearing the stream. So when they get the quiz questions will come at them with a delay if they're watching us in a delay. So it'll sync up with whatever when they're watching the stream, their quiz will sync up with whatever delay their stream is coming at.
That's awesome.
So it's really cool. So we tested all that out. Things are working a lot better. So I'm psyched about that. So we can get to that. The other thing is, because of COVID, I wasn't really paying attention, but we hit one of our patron goals.
Wait, what?
We hit 3,500 patrons.
Does that mean you got to get naked for the next live stream?
No. So what the effect was that we were going to do a studio upgrade,
which we're doing.
Which because of Nexus, it had already kind of been in the works.
Yeah, so they synced up nicely.
It did synced up perfectly. So I want to thank all of our patrons out there, guys. Thank you so much. I mean, I don't want to downplay how awesome it is to hit one of our milestones. It's a huge deal, especially during a pandemic, because we really haven't been asking people to become patrons because we're in a pandemic. You know, it's like we get it. We're happy to still be here, let alone ask people to give us, you know, to become a member of the SGU. But we hit it. We hit 3,500. We have 3,522 patrons as I speak right now. So thank each and every one of you. We really appreciate it.
And when we get to 4,000, that's when we do the 12-hour live marathon.
Yes. And
no sweat.
Maybe aboard the Enterprise.
Easy. That would be epic.
Oh yeah, that's what I fully pulled the trigger because that's been on the back burner just because I don't expect to get there for a while. But yeah, I mean, if I can pull it off, I know that the Star Trek Museum is open right now. They just opened not too long ago. And it's actually an amazingly good time to go if you love Star Trek. Where is it? Ticonderoga, New York, upstate New York.
Yep.
If you go there now, you essentially are going to be able to get an incredibly private tour of the museum. And if you're a Star Trek the original series fan, oh my god, like it is the best freaking thing.
It's
amazing.
A lot of fun.
It was spiritual, which is saying a lot from an atheist.
I know, right? Yeah.
Jay, have you looked recently at our download numbers? Somebody asked.
Say again?
Have you looked recently at our download numbers?
Total downloads?
Like every week. What's our weekly download? Would it be?
I'll look it up right now.
Last time I checked, we were coming in around 150,000.
Yeah, I can look right now.
And that's not including old episodes. That's just the latest episode.
Right. The new stuff.
Yeah.
And we know that multiple people listen to perhaps the same download. So
no, but that might be true. Though our media host over the years has been able to remove one person listening to it counting more than once if they do a partial download and then go back later or whatever. So at one point our numbers dropped in half.
Yeah,
but that was across everybody. Yeah,
the whole ocean
because they just started counting them differently. But it was a kind of little bit of a shock to the system. It's like we just lost half our audience. But
so they stopped counting them with their fingers. Is that
what do you want to know, Steve? What stat would you like to know?
Like if you go say 8 weeks out, 9, 10 weeks out, what's the download for that one episode?
So all right, well our monthly average podcast download is 730,000.
Yeah, but that's everything.
Month. That's everything.
That's
a lot. If you want to look at
big.
A single episode, so here, let me go back we'll go back about 8 weeks. Let's see here.
Back to the episode from the future, our least controversial episode.
Yeah, 125,000 is a good round number. I'm seeing, and then when we go back a little farther, it goes up.
Yeah, usually plateaus.
It gets into like 130, 135.
135. Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Evan, but before we go to the quiz, you want to tell us what your puzzle is?
Sure. Since lots of viewers have already guessed it, Bob, did you see what the puzzle is behind me here?
I noticed that there was a new puzzle. I didn't check it out.
Okay.
It's cool design. I like it.
Thanks. I did not invent it, in fact. I borrowed it. And I borrowed it from a show we're all very fond of and familiar with. Anyone recognize that particular font, shall we say?
I know what it says.
Is that because you've been reading the messages, Jay?
Yeah, people guessed it a long time ago.
They did. If you're a watcher of Futurama, one of the greatest shows ever on television, in my opinion, they have an alien language called Alienese. So this is the alien language that appears quite often in the background on signs and other things in the Futurama universe.
Well, and based on the last word, I can guess what that last word is.
Yeah. So what's the last word?
It looks like Bob to me.
Yeah.
And I love the O is awesome. I love that design. So
So
happy birthday, Bob. Happy birthday, Bob.
Happy
Bob.
birthday, Bob.
All right, thanks, bro.
That
That's
was just
awesome.
for you, my friend.
Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob.
Uncle Bob.
Uncle
Yeah, someone
Bob.
suggested I should have put in Uncle Bob, and I did have enough room for it, but I just didn't think of it.
That's fine. That's
That's
great.
funny 'cause
Thanks, man.
We had an Uncle Bob, my mother's brother,
Yeah.
And he was
and I
awesome.
was talking to my wife in front of my daughter about Uncle Bob, and who's passed
Uncle
away a number of years ago and had problems or whatever. And so she has a horrified look on her face because she thought I was talking about you.
Oh,
I'm like, no,
Uncle
not
Bob did
your
this,
Uncle
and
Bob.
Uncle Bob did that.
My Uncle
My
Bob.
Uncle Bob.
Yeah,
There's more than one Uncle Bob out there.
Yeah. He's a lot of fun.
Bob's her uncle. Yeah,
All right, so should we
your
move
uncle.
over to the quiz?
the
Yeah.
Quizinator.
Quiz
Let's
time.
do it.
And so as Ian is preparing that, I'll just tell everyone, guys, keep in mind, this is a work in progress. The software developer is working with us. He's, is fitting in, guy has got a full-time job here. So he's fitting in the development work. He's doing it all for free for the SGU. So please do us a favor. First, just enjoy yourself, no matter how well the quiz software works or doesn't work. And number two, please do fill out the survey afterwards to let us know if you had problems or if you have any ideas or feedback or whatever. Let us know because we're going to continue to work on this software for quite a while.
Is there a link for the quiz? People are asking.
Yeah, Ian, I'm going to hand it over to Ian now.
So yeah, basically, if you go to darkenergy.games, you don't have to do the /. I'm going to put.
Do I have to do it?
I mean, if you guys want to do it too, that's fine.
Yeah.
Dark energy.
Except for Jay, because he knows the answers.
Dot games.
Yeah, let me put it in the chat. There's a couple updates to the system. I'll start the game. One thing is it's going to be automated as well. So the questions will proceed one after the other. So everybody has 30 seconds to answer.
Should we click to play
Depending on-
right now?
No, let me open the game. And then it's 30 seconds between the questions. So let me hit that. Okay, so yeah, I think hit click to play and you should see.
And then join
quick.
game?
Now, don't
Join
hit
game.
the calibrate now button until Ian tells you what to do.
Okay.
Right. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna count down, and I'll say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, click, and then everyone, when you hear me say click the calibrate button.
But we should click join game now.
Yes.
Yes. If you haven't already clicked join game,
Okay.
we'll just give them a moment to click on darkenergy.games. Let me pin the comment everywhere so that everybody knows where to go.
Yep.
There we
Yeah,
go.
so you should be looking at a button that says calibrate now, but don't
Yeah,
hit
you
it
hit-
until
No,
Ian
don't.
says so.
Wait,
just
hold
wait.
on. If you accidentally hit it, refresh your page.
When I nod my head, you hit it.
Don't press the
Okay,
glowing button.
All right. Y'all.
Do not
What's that
touch
from?
It's on
Push
Zoom.
button,
So old, I
probably.
forgot.
So, yeah, it's a million old cartoons.
Yeah.
Okay, we have
Adam,
people
go-
joining. We have about 350. Come on, we have
We can do better than
84
that.
people watching right now.
Yeah.
Get in there.
Everyone get in there. Dark energy games. Let's
Let's
try to
break this thing
Yeah.
so Frank gets a headache worse than he has already.
Yes.
Jay.
Yo,
Sorry, the word Frank. Just
I know, right?
That's it.
That's been
That's
my
it.
jerky boy's name for so long that nobody believes
Frank
it. When
Rizzo.
Yeah, Frank, open your ears, jackass.
Yeah, right. It's
Yeah,
it's become a colloquialism. It just is
yeah.
no longer a name, proper name.
All right, people are still joining. They're trickling
Okay.
in.
Well, yeah.
Join
Plus, there's a
us.
delay, so that has
Together.
a little effect.
Right.
We will rule the dark energy games.
I'll post the link one more time just for everybody to get in here. We have 4 questions today, so get everybody
4
get
questions.
ready.
Very
Lord
Jewish.
Farquaad. Remember that?
Lord Farquaad.
I always laugh when our kids watch that movie. I hear that part. It cracks me up every time.
The stream is good for everybody else, right? I think just one person is having issues. You might want to refresh or change the resolution.
Or
if
change
you're
your
having
internet
issues.
provider. We'll wait.
Buy a PC instead of a
ISP.
Mac.
How dare you? First of all,
Somebody said in the
forget Microsoft. Huh?
in the chat, is anyone as excited as I am to calibrate?
Yes. The candy-like button in front
No,
of
I
me must
love
be pressed.
calibrating.
Frank is not the new Karen. Frank is our basically it's an inside joke, but basically it's the Jerky Boys.
What's his last name?
I can't. I
Yeah.
only get that at live events.
All right,
I
can we
think
go?
we're good.
Let's
Yeah,
do
let's
it.
go. So here we go. I'm going to count down. When you hear me say click, everyone click the calibrate button.
Oh, you said so.
No.
No.
Here
Sorry.
we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Click.
Did it.
Retry the calibration only when the game host
Yeah, that's
tells
what I
you
got
to.
too.
I have to refresh.
Okay, never mind. I think I have to start. Wait, did you? It says it doesn't. Did it
Mine
say
says
game timeline last
failed.
calibrated? Oh, it said failed.
Retry the
failed.
calibration.
Refresh.
Yeah, refresh.
Yeah,
you get back to the
guess.
calibrate now button.
I calibrated and it went fine.
I mean, yeah, you got to just hit early, Ian. You know what I mean?
Okay, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It worked.
Yep, now it worked.
Okay. There we go.
Calibrate done. So
Wait for the game to start.
Everybody
Wait,
else is doing
wait.
it. They have to retry. Let's just make sure.
We can
Everybody
redo it.
gets
I
it.
think, yeah, the trick is, Ian, you got to calibrate a good 2 seconds
2
before
seconds
you
before everybody
tell
else.
us to.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think it did it.
Just
Should
a
we
few
do it?
seconds.
Oh, I didn't say click. You're right. I didn't say click. Okay, refresh. Everyone, we're doing it one more time.
All
Yeah,
right.
we're
I'm going to
learning, we're
refresh
learning.
too. I'm going to refresh as well.
Just so y'all know, this is the game. There's nothing else.
Oh, I like it. We're on the third question already. It's
The
cool.
third
It's
question.
called
Kicking ass.
Calibrate Now.
The third question is, did it calibrate?
Yeah, it was close.
All right,
Okay,
so
here we
whether
go.
you calibrate it or not, redo it.
Okay, I'm gonna click. I'm gonna say click, and when I say it, you do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Click.
There we go.
Yes.
calibration
All right.
done.
Did
Calibration
it work?
done.
Everybody is happy and
You are
excited.
2 seconds behind the live stream.
Good.
worked.
Yay,
2 seconds.
Everything is good. We're all happy. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna hit start game.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's
wait,
do
wait.
it.
Start game. Boom, 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 boom.
Ooh.
Start. Here it goes. It's gonna go automatic. Everybody. I think that worked. Everybody.
What part of your body would you find a tragus?
Tragus.
Tragus.
On what part of your body would you find a tragus? The options are outer ear, throat, sinus, and lower back.
You can change your
Cha-
answer now too.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh,
I
that's
like that.
great.
Yes.
You change your answer until it hits 0.
So you can feel like you just want to click a bunch of things.
All right, I made my choice.
I wrote my essay.
I did
All right.
not get it right. So now we have 25 seconds to discuss it, right?
It's right here.
Yes, we have. So, Ian, go ahead. You could read out the answers and talk about it.
So the part of your body that you would find the tragus is the outer ear. Which
So
is a
it's that
popular
weird
spot.
little flap right here. The flap. That
People get it
thing.
pierced all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the
The
ears,
tragus
nose, and throat
piercing.
options there. Very cool.
Right, 3
All
seconds.
right, we're moving on.
Oh,
Lightning is hotter than the surface of the sun.
can I have a third option?
Lightning is hotter than the surface of the sun.
There's
True or
sometimes.
false?
You have a
Also,
50% chance. You have a 50% chance.
I'm changing my answer. I'm changing back.
No!
Ah, where's my coin?
Bathtub
If
news.
anybody's having problems seeing the questions, I believe if you refresh, you'll just be dropped in.
Yeah.
And the calibration might be weird for
The
you.
surface
but-
of the sun is not that hot. You know, it's like there's a
corona
lot of
thousand
things.
Couple thousand degrees.
There's a lot of things that are quote unquote hotter than the surface of the sun because it's not
Like
as
the
hot as you
corona.
might think. What's really hot is the corona around the surface of the sun. Of
Yes.
course, the core is
And
also
the core,
pretty
of course,
hot. Yeah.
quite
But
hot.
the surface itself is not as hot as you might
But
think.
it sounds like it should be hot. You
Yeah,
know,
of
like
course
it's
it
like,
does.
Yeah.
how can something on Earth be hotter than the sun?
yeah,
Here
man.
we
If
go.
you
Next
put on enough
question.
sunscreen,
Next
you're fine.
question. I'm sorry, it's automated. Which of the following is not in the grass family? Wheat, rice, bamboo, thistle. Here's the audio.
It's a hard one, huh?
That's a good question.
You have some good info in there, Ian.
Oh, I don't think.
Hey,
I
I was right.
I'm kicking butt today.
Ian, do you have the
3
info?
for 3.
No, we don't see that anymore.
Oh, okay. I'll talk to Frank about it. So yeah, oddly enough, so bamboo, wheat and rice and rye and sugar cane are all part of the grass family.
Yeah.
and more stuff that you would be surprised to hear.
Wheat,
Thistle-
rice, rye, oats, barley, sorghum, sugarcane, corn, bamboo, pampas grass, and the
Yep.
grass in your yard. Quinoa and buckwheat are not grasses.
Can you imagine their Thanksgiving dinners?
Next one.
All right, next one. Here we go. A fathom is used to measure the depth of water.
Oh, yeah.
How deep is 1 fathom?
Exactly 1 fathom deep.
Can you fathom it? 3.4 miles, which is 5.4 kilometers. 120 feet, which is 360, or 36.5 meters. 6 feet, which is 1.8 meters, or 1.7 feet, which
I
is
knew this at some point in
51.8
my life.
centimeters.
Holy crap, man! Got it.
Yeah, so a fathom is supposed to be the distance between your middle finger, open arm, to your other middle finger, open arm. Which is
Are you sure?
What, Vitruvian Man?
I read a lot of different things. A lot of places said that. Some places said like it's the depth of water that all people would be underwater, which they say the tallest man. 3.4 miles is an estimate for a league.
A league.
There's lots of different measurements for a league. And a fathom is not official, by the way. There is no official fathom.
So if you got it wrong, you don't have to count it against
So
you.
wait, 20,000 leagues under the sea was really deep.
Oh, hell yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Leagues? Oh, yeah.
Now, here's the other cool thing. Ian, the results will come up when Ian says,
Stops
okay, yeah, he stops the game. So, because this was a problem that Frank solved. So
I'm
now
going to stop the
everybody.
game now.
All right, so so we're looking at our personal
No,
score,
I think
we're gonna get everybody's score now. Oh, cool.
Well, it's pretty much everybody. The X is not what you voted for or picked, and then conversely, it's just what the right answer was. So we already kind of said it. So it doesn't actually show individualized guesses.
Yeah.
The X's that actually marks the spot. So,
Yeah, Ian and I were just talking to Frank about, excuse me, about what do we actually want to see here in the results. And I think it's more fun. First, you want to see your results, and then we want to see like what the community results were.
Oh, a lot of people got Thistle.
Yeah, it's interesting. Most people got the fathom correct.
And
as
most
well,
people
which
got
is
the fathom
nice.
correct. Yeah.
Pretty smart.
Yeah, very good, guys. Yeah, I mean, it was mostly correct answers. Very good. Let's see. Italy did the best. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it was one person.
Well, okay.
That's true.
but-
That's true. Frank and his Frank has a guy working with him called Patrick. Patrick is trying to
Starfish.
figure out if there's a better way to show the country mix up, like just like this. Like there was one person that played the game in Italy, and they got everything right, so therefore Italy won. But we might try to massage this data so it shows things maybe in a more fair way. I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. But what we are absolutely certain of is that Morocco did the worst.
You could list them by the number of players. You know what I mean? So that at least
Who's
you'll be
watching
looking.
it? Who's watching in Morocco? Send us a little chat. I want to know.
Yeah. Slovakia.
And Slovakia.
Our book is available in Slovakia. That one person who is playing from Slovakia.
Yeah, that's why sales aren't going so great over there.
No, I mean I don't know what stage it's at, but we have we licensed rights to translate the book into Slovakian or whatever is the language spoken in Slovakia.
So guys, do me a favor, please there's a link there, fill out our survey. Do that if you have a minute. Let us know if you like the game. I really am getting positive feedback, but I will put more energy into this if you guys are really enjoying it. I think it's a ton of fun.
I'm always up for games, man. Always. In time.
All right.
That was good.
All right.
That was good. Good job. Good work, boys. Should we move on to some questions?
Yes, please.
Sure. Let me call those up. Okay, here's a question from Discord. I've got a question about the podcast. Why is the science or fiction segment the only one that has its own transitional theme music? I'd guess the answer is something like, it's good to be the king.
That's a good question.
It gets too tedious and it takes too long to have transitional music for everything. and because you know, a lot of the times we mix up the segments. More recently, we've had some other segments that have been more recent. But I don't know. What do you think? Would you like to hear transitional music for other segments?
But I can answer the question better than you did, Steve.
Why?
So when we were building the podcast, and I went and I was making the transition. I made all the music. I went out and found all of the things that you hear on the show, right? So first off, Science or Fiction was our first and only game.
Yeah.
And it was, we knew from the beginning that it was going to be like, it was the end of the show. And Steve, you specifically said, I'd like you to make transition music for Science or Fiction.
We also have transitional music for the interviews as well, which is also goes back to the beginning of the show.
Right. That's right. So those things were there. So I've never made, a theme. I tried actually for Kara's segment. I made a couple of test ones but we didn't end up using that game that she came up with.
George made us transitional music for Who's That Noisy, which was great. And I used it a couple of times, but I just got tired of putting it in the show. It's just more work. And
it's all about laziness.
But also, the other thing that's happened over the years is that we've gotten more long-winded.
Yes.
And it's just, the show is going longer and longer. And so I don't need anything more to put more time into the show. Even 10, 20 seconds, I'd rather not do it.
What's funny is when we get on, we start at 7:30 our local time, and we talk. We're warming up, we're catching up with each other, and there are times, we usually talk for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then we record the ads, and then we do the show. If we have an interview, we start the interview at 8:00, right?
Yeah.
But there's been, especially recently, because of what's going on in the world with all the news and everything that's going on, we are arguing and talking to each other and complaining about the news and everything until 8:30, right? Which is hard because that means that we're recording until 11 o'clock at night at that point, and we're all like, oh, right? So we are talking a lot more outside of the podcast as well about the world.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get another question.
Okay, let's see. This one is, if they approve a COVID vaccine that's 50% effective and then sometime later approve another vaccine that's 80% effective, would you be able to get the second one if you already got the first one?
So they'll have to specifically test that, but the answer is probably. Just like you can get a flu vaccine every year and it's fine. You just have to wait a certain number of months. I think it's 3 months from the previous vaccine at least before you get the next one. So it'd be very unlikely for there to be any contraindication to getting a second vaccine. It'd basically be like a booster,
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that's
question.
good to know. That's good to know. But really talk to your primary care physician, or if you don't have one, talk to somebody else's primary care physician. Get an answer from a professional.
No, you get one is the answer.
Yeah. Well, some people don't have insurance, Steve.
All right.
Okay.
What's next?
Next, if we could add a single chapter from the SGU book into the school syllabuses, or what chapter would you choose?
Oh,
Chapter of the book.
Chapter of the book.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a Sophie's Choice. Probably the logical fallacy one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah, it's a good place to start.
Covers
but it's
a lot
also,
of things.
Yeah, it has depth to it. I mean, you could even read outside of the book to learn a lot more about.
Yeah.
There's so many now, and it is like the slippery slope of figuring out how to be a skeptic is to realize how wrong you are.
Mm-hmm.
Your own logic is. Yeah. But we've said this before, but it's an important note: when you're in a fight with your spouse, don't tell them what logical fallacies they're committing during the fight.
Yeah.
Even if it's true.
Marriage 101.
Yeah,
not recommended.
True.
Happy Marriage 101.
You're basically telling them, go ahead and punch me right in the face if you want to. That's
But the thing is, so I know we all do this, right? We all have our social media that we use, and I try to keep up to date on the comments of my blogs. For example, I know Jay, you like to go on Facebook, and it is amazing that people don't know how to think. Just as a general, first approximation of humanity, people have a lot of problem thinking very clearly and logically, and and so there's so much bad thinking going on in the comments. And
How much does the medium have?
If there's any emotional connection, forget about it. Just logic goes out the window.
Yeah.
How much does the medium itself contribute to that problem?
It's hard to say. I think it maybe it comes out more, but I don't think it's making people think poorly. I think people think poorly, and we just see it on social media.
Well, if you're going to use Twitter, say, as your main avenue for that,
they're all bad.
It's like sound bites and stuff, chunks of little.
Yeah.
It's not very efficient. Perhaps is
not
most efficient way of.
There are different windows into people's thinking, but they all tell the same answer. Is that people, and I honestly, what I would like is for a good, solid philosophy class to be a standard curriculum in school, and I even think among skeptics, I think there's too little discussion of philosophy. It really should have equal footing to science in the skeptical movement. I really firmly believe that because philosophy is just all about thinking clearly. That's what it is about. And it really, it's like one of those things where if you study anything to a lot of detail, you learn about knowledge in general. And if you study philosophy to a detail, you learn about thinking in general. And any kind of paying that much attention to how you are thinking and how we know stuff and what is knowledge, just those basic fundamental questions. You know what I mean? It is, there's a big difference between, it's like metacognition, right? Either you engage in metacognition or you don't. And it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Then, of course, once you are engaged in it, then there's a continuum of degrees of like, well, how much experience, how much knowledge, how good are you at it? But there's a massive difference between people who don't, get philosophy, just don't take a philosophical approach to thinking about stuff, and people who do,
Yeah.
So I think that and I remember my philosophy courses. They were a huge eye opener. They were, a huge part of, of just my intellectual growth. Again, so was like really reading good science communicators like Stephen Jay Gould, somebody who could see the deeper connections between things. And then when you start to think of not just facts, right? So you're going from thinking about science as a collection of facts to thinking about science as a way of connecting things fundamentally. Right, so that's also that is important as well. And then we add the pseudoscience, critical thinking, self-deception, neuropsychological humility angle to those two things. Try to put it all together. But I think the philosophy piece is the weakest link in the skeptical movement itself.
What's a good book, Steve? Good philosophy primer.
There's so many different kinds of philosophy. So, just one on critical thinking, which is philosophy, is good. I really, really liked my course on ethics, the philosophy of ethics. That should be a required course, maybe at the college level, because again, people think about what's right and what's wrong in a very sloppy manner, right? Philosophy is basically not thinking sloppy, right? That's what it's like. If you think consistently, internal consistency, and think your way through the implications of things, and you have some kind of basic formalized structure. It's like anything, right, Jay? It's like when we first were learning about how to film, we went from having no composition to having composition, right? Yeah. It's like when you first start to write essays, you have to learn the difference between not having structure to having a structure. Or if you're telling stories, once you start thinking about the structure of your thinking, it puts you on a different plane.
Exactly.
And thinking about the structure of ethical thinking is huge. And then when you go through that, then you realize that people are just speaking out their ass.
And that's also necessary, in my opinion, Steve, to have the beginnings of humility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And you
Like,
have to extrapolate that to the rest of your intellectual life. And that's where humility comes from. Like, wow, I really had no idea what I was talking about. And now at least I could think about it within some kind of structure, you know? And I have to have that same humility towards everything else that I haven't studied, you know, in a reasonable way. There's a structure to everything, right? No matter what it is, any kind of discipline, you know, there's going to be some kind of structure to it. And anyone will be able to tell you, like if you're a photographer, for example, there's a difference between people who compose their photos and people who don't compose their photos. There's a dramatic difference. And then once you're somebody who composes your photos, then it's a continuum of improvement from there. But most people aren't even composing. They're just looking at the subject and clicking. You know what I mean? They're not in any way thinking about the rule of thirds, and like there's a kind of basic thing. Like in 10 minutes, I could revolutionize your picture taking if you're somebody who knows nothing about picture taking.
The interesting side note to that is most people can recognize which photograph feels better.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, like which of these two pictures do you like better, A or B? And most people will pick
the
one
professional picture.
Yes, that has composition. And so there is something about it. It's cooked into us somehow, I guess.
It reminds me of a story. So when the fourth novella brother was first getting into photography and was like in that experimental phase where he was just trying to get his sea legs on how to take pictures, he was showing me a bunch of his pictures, right? And then mixed in there was this like picture of a weeping willow tree. Like it was nothing, like the subject matter was nothing, but it was a really beautiful picture. And I'm like, whoa, that's a gorgeous picture. And he said, that's a professional picture. I didn't take that one. But it jumped out. It jumped out of all the amateur pictures he was taking because it was, and I couldn't tell you at the time why. It was just, that's a gorgeous picture. I don't know what it was, but it's just because there was something like lighting and composition. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you were, whereas when you're not thinking about those things, you don't even know what's wrong with it. It's also like we talk about like B movies. You could watch a B movie and know it's a B movie, even if you don't know why it's a B movie, right? Yeah. You have to study film and filmmaking to know the technical details of how to make a movie feel like a good experience. But you don't need that knowledge to experience what a shitty movie versus a great movie. I find it fun to know what it is technically that's happening.
Oh, God, I love knowing the technical things behind the scenes, and to be able to intelligently talk about the sound, the Foley, the lighting, the pacing of the script. All of these are all so much fun to talk about.
Yeah.
If you get into it, you really can pick apart elements that worked and didn't work with any film that you see.
Yep. Somebody read really quick. Somebody read in the comments that the rule of thumb was made to be broken. Totally agree. But here's the caveat. And I first read this in a book on screenwriting because like Perry and I, were playing around with screenwriting for a while. So I read a few books on it. And they said, all of these rules are made to be broken, but learn the rules first.
Right. You have to know the rules to break them.
You have to really have a good understanding of the rules before you know how and when you can break them.
Yeah. If
you break them because you don't understand them, it's not going to be in a good way. It's probably not going to be in a good way.
And can you really even call it breaking the rules? You're just like expanding the rules or stretching them as far as they can go, sort of before that breaking.
Oh, you can even break them. So like, for example, like Kubrick breaks the film rules all the time, but when he does it, it kind of jumps out at you. It's like he breaks the 180-degree rule, right? And he did it to show an equivalence between the two characters, but you notice it's weird. You don't know why it's weird unless you know filmmaking. And, and now like I know, oh shit, he's breaking the 180-degree rule.
But you felt it. But everybody felt it.
But you feel it, even if you don't know the rule.
Yeah. So, let me give you another cool thing. So George Hrab in his podcast talked about the Geologic podcast. George talked about what store was he saying? Like Kmart. Why is Kmart like a sad store to visit?
Yeah.
And he got into the idea of like the quality of the lighting is so unbelievably important to the mood that these stores give you. Like Walmart's feel like Walmart's because of the lighting. And the reason why, this is opinion, but I mean, I would think that a lot of you would agree. But if you go into a Macy's, Macy's feels very different than a Walmart because they spend so much more time and energy and money on the lighting and the quality of the lighting. So, you know, if you walk into like those stores that are less expensive, I don't know what the names of ones around you. You have like, what were the supermarkets here that we used to have around here, Bob, that were like
Caldor.
No, it was like a food supermarket. They all
Grand
closed.
Union.
Oh yeah.
Grand Union.
Well, Grand Union, but I don't know if many people
ShopRite
would know that.
or-
But the bottom line is, like, when you walk into like a money saving type of place that is really cheap, the lighting is horrible. It's dark, it's gloomy in there, and you walk in, and you immediately get like something sitting on your shoulder. That's all lighting, and it's all based off of, part of it is money. But when you get into the upper echelons of stores, they are perfectly aware of what the effect of their lighting is doing on your perception of the store. It's part of the brand, and it's deliberate. And I'd like to know why they pick the different ways of doing it. But so getting back, Steve, to what you're saying about breaking the rules and having to know the rules in order to break them in a weird kind of way, you can say to break them appropriately or bend the rules correctly, right? Because you're still inside the construct of working with knowledge, working with practices that have been, proven over the years. And but that's what I think makes breaking the rules special. When anything, it could be in any medium. Like if you see somebody doing something that's unorthodox and it works, it gets a special status. It becomes something in and of itself, I think, which is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I'll give you an example. It's not so much breaking the rules, but it was like moving into an area like in the Matrix when they had the bullet time camera, right?
Ian, can you show that picture
Where is it?
on my screen? Can you see it?
Let me grab it. Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Let me grab it real quick.
People are asking for an example. This is I think this is the favorite photo of a bird that I've taken.
Of the 49,000 photos of birds you've taken.
Yeah.
Big bird.
Yeah, Caldor's used to be a department store that probably went out of business 30 years ago.
Oh yeah, Caldor.
Yeah. All right, we're waiting for what? A picture to
Woolworths.
appear somewhere?
We already did it.
Oh, we did it. Okay, well, let's move on then. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to
let's
keep.
move on.
Okay, next question. Sorry. Have you heard of much research going into what the genetic variability of people who are asymptomatic as opposed to apparently healthy people who end up with the cytokine storm?
Say that again.
Yeah, so basically they're asking, have you heard of much research going into what the genetic variability of people?
Yeah. So very preliminary, just the idea that there may be a difference. They're just starting to get to that point. Like they're trying to look at, what is it about people who do really poorly and have a cytokine storm versus people who do well. So we know that there's a lot of risk factors in terms of secondary underlying chronic illness, like you have hypertension, diabetes, obesity. That's you have 12 times the death rate than people who don't have those conditions. But they're also looking for just genetic differences. So I don't know the details off the top, but I do know that there's been some research looking at that specifically.
Mm-hmm. Steve, a couple of people want to know what you think about CBD.
So CBD is the new herbalism. That's and there's a number of articles. David Gorski, I think, has written about it the most on science-based medicine. It's a pharmaceutical, right? It's a class of, it contains multiple drugs. CBD is a type of drug derived from marijuana, and we're in the preliminary stages of research. We're at the point of research where we'll know in 15 to 20 years, really what comes out of it. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of premature interest in it obviously there are people who are saying it works for everything.
Yeah.
I'm most familiar with the neurological applications, and the preliminary evidence is kind of all over the place at this point. But it's not a panacea. Probably most of the things that people are claiming it for are not going to pan out. I think there may be some non-specific effects in there that people are just interpreting as specific effects.
Is it doing anything that other approved drugs or herbs or whatever?
No, it's just going to, at the end of the day, it's going to be one more drug of many that will have some applications.
Okay.
But why would you ask me about that drug versus the other 100 drugs in development? Not because of scientific reasons, only because it's
in the news.
It's out there because you could go to your
dispensary.
You can go to the freaking gas station and buy it in the Quickie Mart.
There too.
So that's why. But it's there's nothing special about it, is the bottom line. And I think we'll get some modest new pharmaceuticals out of it probably, but it's going to take some time.
Somebody said, how come none of you have actually smoked cannabis? I will not speak for anybody else, but I have. When I was younger, I used to.
I never
College,
did.
I did.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, next question.
Sorry. Next one. So this one comes from Discord, and they're asking, is there a way out of fideism, like faith-based knowledge? I'm not sure the specifics of that question, but maybe the claim that faith or knowledge comes from faith.
So is there a way out of it? Like, meaning if somebody has what they consider to be faith-based knowledge, is there any way to get them out of that belief system?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, not directly by definition, because that we talk about the fact that if you didn't come to a belief, if you didn't reason your way to a belief, you can't be reasoned out of that belief. I think that's a Hitchens quote, and that's basically it. And you have and we tend to talk about a closed versus an open belief system. If you have a closed belief system, it's by definition, insulated from external refutation. That's why it's very important to keep an eye out for that you're closing off your belief system in some way. You have to keep it open to external refutation, So what you have to do is change the premise, right? You have to change their premise. You can't argue within their faith to talk them out of it. You have to get them to think differently, to think skeptically, right? To think more philosophically, which is hard to do. You can't. There's no guaranteed way to do that. Our recommendation is usually get them to do it about some other topic, and then hope that they apply it.
I mean, and plus the spectrum here is huge. You can have someone who has some silly ideas in their head, all the way to someone that's been programmed and is in a full-on cult. That you might not be able to, you might not be able to get below the surface on that. You can't get in their head the way that the cult is in their head. It's very, very difficult to do. All right, Ian, please give us another question.
Okay, so this one, I'm changing a little bit, but basically, what woo would you want to remove, and then what woo that is no longer in fashion would you replace it with?
You have to replace it.
You don't have to. I just made it more difficult. But essentially, what woo of the current era would you remove and replace?
Alternative medicine for sure.
If you could make a huge category, if you could pick a category, definitely alternative medicine.
Yeah,
if you have to get super specific, I don't know. I think acupuncture would be the most.
Vaccination.
Well, I would base my decision on which one is the gateway one, and I think homeopathy and chiropractic are really big gateway pseudosciences. And homeopathy pisses me off in such a profound way because of just how flat out stupid it is. It is so based on bullshit. It's so obvious. I can't understand people thinking. First off, it's physically impossible. The physics do not support the premise. But the idea that that like cures like, and everything about it is just a dumb
but
decision.
It's so stupid. I think it's one that we could marginalize on our own. You know what I mean? I wouldn't waste my wave of the magic wand on that one. I think we've got it on the ropes pretty much.
Yeah, that's cool, Bob.
Figure out which one does the most damage and do away with that one.
Yeah.
So what woo do you think maybe would make a comeback? Not preferred.
I mean, if
but-
I had to choose one, phrenology is pretty benign, you know,
Yeah.
because it's just another.
Yeah.
It's like palm reading, you know. It's just it would be a net zero because it would just replace other things that are accomplishing the same goal.
I'll tell you what we don't want to come back is bloodletting. 'Cause that's bad.
Well, yeah,
Bloodletting.
bloodletting. Yeah.
All right, next question.
How about seances? Nah, that's not good.
have you seen the debunking the Stanford prison experiment paper?
Yeah, we
are
talked
your
about
thoughts?
that, didn't we?
I don't remember.
When that came out. Yeah, I don't remember the details off the top of my head. You know, I remember that there was a lot of problems with the way that study was reported. There was some cherry picking going on, I believe. And I think it hasn't replicated well is also the case. I would have to like go back and like look at remind myself of the details before talking about it in detail.
Yep. All right, next one.
So a couple hair-based ones. Is there a difference between types of shampoo for different hair types, or does it not matter?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
We talked about that on the show a number of years
We
ago, I think.
Did?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the real thing, this is what I understand. And I've tried lots of different quality of hair products throughout the years in my life. I mean, there is absolutely a difference in a couple of things. You know, one, if you're using a harsher chemical on your hair, it's going to strip out more oil and your hair will feel less healthy. And then also I do, you know, through my anecdotal life of using different hair care products, there are some really, really amazing like conditioners that are way better than the standard crap conditioner that you can buy in a supermarket. If you're buying something that truly has, you know, they've done legitimate research to help your hair. I mean, there is a difference.
Let me say this though. I mean, you're right. So there's definitely a difference in quality between different products, right? You could have different quality components in them, but there's only a few different kinds of things that the shampoo does, right? And so really what the different formulas are just having different ratios of like how much astringent do you have? You know, how much of the soap, you know, the stuff that pulls the dirt and oil out, how much moisturizer do you have in there? You know, so they play around with the different types of things that would go in there to make the different formulas for different hair types. But what they're doing is all the same. You know what I mean? Like an astringent's an astringent, pretty much. And you know what I mean? There's no shampoo out there that has some magical ingredient that's doing something that the other shampoos can't do or don't do. It's just different ratios of how much of the different types of things that they're putting in there.
But Steve, conditioners, I mean, there is a big difference between
there's quality
conditioners.
differences. There's
Yeah,
quality.
I mean, without a doubt, there are certain compounds that have a more beneficial effect on your hair. That's just a fact.
Like what?
Well, I mean, look, I'd have to research this to really, I don't want to like start saying things because I
yeah, it's a good idea.
Prepared, but
29 shampoo
and it might be a
emails
little
coming.
individual depending on your hair, you know, but I mean, you know, like my wife and I just started using a new shampoo and conditioner, and the conditioner is so unbelievable good.
But
It's
it may just be more conditioner, you know, than in your previous.
Even if that's the case, you know,
that's what I'm saying. I think that's the big difference is playing around with the ratios.
Concentration levels of certain.
It's rather than, like it's not. Again, you can break it down to its components.
Sure you
Yeah,
can.
And-
read the label.
Yeah, and then but what I find deceptive in the marketing is that they try to make it sound like their product is doing something new that the other products aren't even doing. No, they're just shuffling around the same basic chemical properties that we've known about for decades. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep. And adding different fragrances and other
Yeah, you have
things.
fragrances, there are fillers, you know, there are different quality things that go into it as well, but there's definitely
Glitter.
a whole industry science to it, but it's, you know, there's nothing, you know, beyond that very limited set of chemical functions going on.
Evan, you made me think of a funny question. What,
Yeah.
I'll ask. This is a question I'll ask to you guys. What? Not the holiday, but what element do you hate the most out of all the holidays? What thing do you dislike the most? It could be
Holiday?
What
could be
aspect of a specific holiday?
It could be making Easter eggs. It could be the smell of latex in a Halloween costume. You know, I have one.
Yeah.
Clearly.
I do. I hate glitter. I hate glitter so much.
What holiday do you associate with glitter?
I gotta write this.
Christmas.
Write this down.
I hate glitter. Glitter is
Jay
horrible.
Hates glitter.
It's horrible. And it
Okay.
comes from, I started to dislike it when I was a kid because I remember our mother telling us that this woman accidentally spilled glitter in her eye and the doctor had to take them out with tweezers, had to because the glitter stuck.
It won't wash out. Oh,
But I
wow.
noticed like glitter, it really is like the Anakin Skywalker sand thing. It gets everywhere. It sticks to everything.
It does. It does. Including like your head, you know, somehow, how the hell did I get glitter
I
on
know,
my
in my
face
head.
and stuff? Like,
Somebody said glitter is the herpes of the craft world. Yes, you are. Yes, exactly. That is it in a nutshell. All right, but there's got to be other things that you guys don't like.
I know. I'm
What do you hate?
thinking the thing. I'm trying to go through the different holidays. The thing
here's
is,
someone
like,
who worked in the greeting card factory. Glitter is the fucking worst, he said.
I kind of fashioned the holidays the way I want, so that I like all the elements of them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm having a hard time coming up with something.
Oh, the holidays.
I guess buying gifts for at Christmas is stressful.
Yes, it's
I
stressful.
find that so that
Yeah.
that's a little stressful, but that's the only thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, receiving
Start
gifts
early.
is great. Buying gifts.
Start
Is it?
early. Do use Amazon. Start like 3 months
Yeah.
ahead of time. That's what you got to do. All right. I don't like
3 months. It's not
the really
human.
cheap jelly beans that come around with Easter. The really cheap, the fat ones that like have horrible flavors.
Yeah.
I hate those.
Yeah,
But yeah,
the
but why would
flavors are
you? Why
pink,
would you eat them?
Yeah.
Get the
yellow.
good ones. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but every once in a while, you pop one in your mouth. Like, all right, I'll try it again.
I don't
Like,
hate
oh,
them.
God.
It's like
It's a
even bad jelly beans are still okay. There's jelly beans. I love jelly beans. But
candy
yeah,
of the year in
the-
1908.
The gourmet jelly beans are the bomb.
Oh yeah, gourmet jelly beans. I eat those all the time.
Yeah.
Somebody said that
Love
they hate the
those.
4th of July and effing fireworks.
I
They
love
don't like
fireworks.
fireworks.
I
Yeah.
feel bad for the animals on with the fireworks.
Screw
Our
'em.
neighborhood has them, and the dogs are going crazy. They
Really?
hate the
Yeah, they
fireworks.
really, really do.
It might be an anecdote, but there is, I don't know, a lot of people online are saying, like, why is everybody setting off fireworks? Like, it is a phenomenon that's
They're
going
bored.
on. Yeah.
Well,
I guess you're right. They have
the
more
build
free
up to the
time. I don't
fourth.
know.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, another question. Well, how about one more question, guys?
Okay.
So, what are your thoughts on digital board games, board game apps, tabletop simulator? It says specifically not Evan. Good for Ben.
Evan, go
Okay.
ahead. Defy
But
him
Evan
and just
has-
give us your answer. And then
Evan
we'll
has
go.
the most experience.
I do have the most experience because Which Came First, the other podcast I'm a co-host on, we have moved in the COVID era now to playing our board games online. So we
Yeah.
have discovered several sites to do so, and there are actually dozens which you can go to. The overall experience has been, for some games, I was just really thinking about this exact point earlier today. For some games, they're great. They actually play, we think, better than even some tabletop versions of the game. And others, there are things just sorely lacking, unfortunately. So it's a bit hit and miss. Also in the overall quality of the visuals and what you're seeing, that can be a little bit hit or miss. But generally speaking, we've had good success doing it, and it still works for what our podcast is about, which is reviewing those games.
Yeah.
Here's the other downside is that not all games have made their way to the digital formats yet. They're in the process of, new ones are coming up every week, but there's far fewer board games to play online than there are that actually exist.
I'm playing a Roll20 campaign.
Roll20's
Roll20,
big,
it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like it.
That's
It's
very good.
So I'm playing
I
with
mean, here-
people all over the country that were all my medical school friends rather, who were in multiple different states, like 4 different states, 5 different states. There's no way we could get together to play otherwise. So I still prefer getting together around a table. I would prefer doing that
Yes.
and
Yep.
rolling physical dice. But there are advantages to the digital format because, you know, anybody could whisper to anybody else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to keep information siloed. In that way, all the roles are in front of everybody. You know, there's no cheating on the rolls. And not that anyone ever cheats on a D&D roll.
Ever do that.
And
roll
then,
here.
and
Look, I rolled this.
If you do the programming well, then it automates things like you cast a spell, you just hit the button, and then it does all the dice rolling and everything. So, and then anyway, it's a good experience. It's a good role playing experience.
I like all of that, what you just said, Steve, but it sometimes feels like you're playing through cheesecloth. Right. Yeah. So think about this. I'll just give, for those of you who aren't gamers, when we're talking about like playing an online game, playing a tabletop role-playing game online is like, it's like sitting at a table with a bunch of friends and family. You're talking, but you're all wearing masks. That's what it's like to me, because it's not crystal clear. People talk over each other. You can't always hear. So there is a little bit of that going on. And the pacing is very different. I mean, nothing beats being in a room playing any game. It's any game, though, right, Evan? Like,
I know. It's still better to be in a room. The role playing isn't as good. The role playing isn't as good because it's less visceral.
Right.
It's less visceral. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. This was another week. We had a great time. I had so much fun in tonight's stream. What a great stream tonight.
The only thing missing was Kara.
Yeah,
I texted her, said that we miss you.
And Jay, thank you. I want to thank everybody that wished me a happy birthday, which is tomorrow. My birthday is on July 4th. So thank you for all the happy birthday wishes.
Yes, happy birthday, Bob. We love you. So let me get a couple of quick announcements. One, Nexus, necss.org. We have an online all-digital streaming conference that's coming out July 31st and August 1st. Please go to the website. We announced our keynote speaker is Andrian, who some of you might know is Carl Sagan's wife. She was heavily involved in the Voyager projects, and she is an incredible speaker.
She co-wrote Cosmos with him. Let's not short.
Yeah. Without a doubt, she's the real deal. She also produced and directed the Cosmos series, like Steve said. Like these are really big accomplishments. She's awesome, and she's a great.
Ian, share that picture.
Picture share.
Okay.
But you can see the list of all the other speakers up on nexus.org, necss.org. We'd really like you to join us this year. Please do and show your support to us to spread critical thinking. This is all going through nonprofit organizations. We try to hit $0 on this. If there's any money left over, we will use it for next year's conference. So it's just a really good thing to support. But you're going to have a lot of fun. We have a great lineup. We have a game show on Friday night with Bill Nye. It's going to be a shit load of fun, so please join us.
There's the picture.
Is it up?
Yep, that one.
Yeah, that's another good picture. Look at those eyes. That's my daughter, by the way.
Oh, man, I miss those days.
I know.
Yeah.
God.
All right, guys, have a great night. I'm going to go have Indian food for dinner.
Be safe out there. Too. Be safe out there.
Enjoy. Be safe.
See you next week.
Wear your masks.
Guys.
Wash your hands.
Thank you, Ian.
Thanks, Ian, bro.
Goodbye.
Good luck. Bye.
Skeptic's Guide to the Universe is produced by SGU Productions, dedicated to promoting science and critical thinking. For more information, visit us at theskepticsguide.org. Send your questions to info@theskepticsguide.org. And if you would like to support the show and all the work that we do, go to patreon.com/skepticsguide and consider becoming a patron and becoming part of the SGU community. Our listeners and supporters are what make SGU possible.